Kathy Vick, Deeply Awake. It's a trilogy. It's a trilogy Sunday. I knew that I was going to have to do a piece on this. I've been putting it off. I knew. You might not have, but I did. So I'm going to name this something risky, because that's what I'm at. That's where I am at the moment. I'm going to label it sexual identity and spiritual identity. Risky. We're not to combine those two. Don't you know that? Shh, don't talk about this. I was raised a Lutheran, so I was born into a home which took as a basic tenet of faith that there is such a thing as original sin. Basically the born dirty thing. We didn't really believe it, or did we? I mean, it could have been something where we would have read the words and went, ew, that's retarded, and just turned away from it. But no, I mean, we went to a house of worship every week where that was one of the major tenets. So whether we pounded it over each other's heads every day or not didn't really matter. It was part of the consciousness. And the way that I interpreted that was not that we're born dirty, but that everybody thinks sex is bad. And, you know, because that's like, I mean, I knew as a girl that was code. Original sin means sexy times. But we all were born because of sexy times. So it seemed like a really kind of, I don't know, self-hating kind of a thing. This didn't seem like it made much sense. But that was the idea that, you know, that's the idea. Sex is dirty, or sex is wrong, or sex is, we're not, it's there, but we're certainly going to talk about it. In fact, let's darken it up just enough that, you know, only the brave or the crazy go into that little nook and then come out and talk about it. Whatever. Sexual identity and spiritual identity. Here's why I decided I needed to talk about it. I remember the film I did on bisexuality. It came back to me last night, and they were counseling me on it. Because, well, that's what this teaching, the last little bit's been about. It kind of was only on seeing it, on revisiting the first time I witnessed the video I did recently on the energetic change that I went through. As soon as I heard the words, I realized what it was I was describing. So, in the old days, I've made it plain that I didn't really see a difference between boys and girls, men and women. I mean, sure, there are differences, but they're negotiable, or they're negligible and negotiable. And that it wasn't part of my nature to, it didn't seem to me, to shut off one gender and be open to another. What I am understanding now, at this very late date, I am 55 years old. It's another reason why I think it's important to speak. Is that I do believe that we are sexually on a spectrum. I believe the Kinsey model is very accurate, or Masters and Johnson, whichever, Kinsey. That human beings, and Seth, you know, lays it out very plain, that human beings are quite capable of being bisexual. That's sort of the idea. I mean, the equipment explains there's dual function, and there's lots of creativity and imagination within brains. So, yeah. It's not like the parts don't fit. They are interchangeable with one another, and the parts, when they groove together, regardless of the bodies attached to the parts, yes, they fit, and yes, they all feel good, and yes, they achieve good feelings. So, physiologic response. So yeah, there's a spectrum. And you may identify yourself as entirely attracted. See, this is what I always, this is where I went wrong. I would think, well, you can identify as homosexual, you can identify as heterosexual with percentages and with great glee and commitment. But that's an identification. It's not true. Okay? So that's kind of where my thinking was, and that's changed. And I'm so happy. And because this relief is like rock solid and sterling. I'm feeling so good. So, I mean, better than I have felt. And it's sustained, and it is, take it to the bank, pure. Well, here's the thing. That little febrile illness I had, and the piercing of the membrane I've had before, and all of the work that I have done, all the relationships I have had. Well, I, as a woman in the female, and as given the storylines that I dropped myself into, I think that I encoded or understood that to be female in this culture, in my reality, in my survival reality, meant, up until recently I could have said means, I really don't have a right or the ability, or frankly the interest in saying no to men. To say no, well, I mean, to me that's sort of limiting. I would look at lesbians in my life and think, well, you cut yourself off from half of the population. There's half of the population that you're not going to access them. And some of my friends were really hateful toward men, really were suspicious and rageful, and the reason, it was so obvious, the reason that they were with women and around women only was because they really didn't like male energy and didn't like men. And some of them hated men. And I would say, you know, for very good reason. I've been around a lot of dudes, man. A lot of dudes who are petrified of women, who hate and detest that energy, and are married, actively dating. Yeah. And I've always thought, well, you hate what you don't understand. And I would think as a kid, well, this is also very confusing to me, because it's clear that men and women don't understand each other, and they tend to not like each other because they don't understand each other. Really? This is the setup? Anyway, this maelstrom I plopped myself into, I'm gonna be really honest. I really, physiologically and in my like brain pan, to be attracted to a male, there has got to be something phenomenally exceptional. for me to put up with that bullshit. The truth comes out. I don't, and a lot of it came out about, well, a month and a half ago, when we had a goddess gathering, and we were just very openly talking about sexuality. And I had just had a private time with one of the healers that I then had a gathering with, and she was instrumental in bring some of this from my unconscious to my conscious. Because I've always contended that I've been male the last several lifetimes, and this is it's a relatively new thing for me to be female. That's why I decided to. That's why my breasts are as large as they are, because I needed a daily reminder, and I needed to make sure that everyone else treated me as female. It was important that I had that visual and that I appeared female, because I don't feel female. I feel male. Always have. And it's been sort of something I've been ashamed of. I don't want to be butch. I'm a femme dyke. I'm a femme dyke. That's what all the girls called me. I'm a femme dyke who's into guys, basically. I mean, if you have to put a label on me, please use that one. Femme dyke who's into guys. Okay. Guys who are into femme dykes. Whoo! Whoo! So, imagine my surprise. That's an old lesbian term. Holly Near sings a song. Imagine my surprise. Imagine my surprise. At this age, to finally have my Merkaba stop flipping back and forth and back and forth. Maybe it never did. Maybe it was always set this way. Because I was considering going out. I forget what night it was. I think it was Saturday night. Before I asked my friend. I was thinking of Saturday night, yeah. Isn't it going to be a relief to walk in and to completely disregard the men and to not care if they even notice me? Finally. It doesn't matter anymore. Finally. I don't care. And the way that I have always approached this is, my belief is that women as a group are prey socially. And again, you're just going to have to trust me on that. And the last thing I'm going to do is act like a predator. I'm not going to think about women in a sexual way that is like, I want that, or I want you, or so that was removed from my fields a long time ago. I did not. I find that grotesque. So it means that I can walk into social situations, and so unless a woman is out or it's plain that there is heat, it's a friendship. And with men, well then, they were for a long time just non-entities. I think that comes through in my reporting. And now they're not non-entities. They're beautiful, beautiful, beautiful souls. And I can love them in brand new, astounding ways that are so much more free and happy, because I'm not going to be concerned about all of the nonsense of possession and predation. It is, I'm not even there. I'm not interested. And I know full well that, I mean, for me to be partnered, it's pretty obvious, isn't it, that whoever I wind up being partnered with, given as strenuous as my intellect is and as wide open as my emotional body is, it's going to be someone pretty exceptional. And I would hope someone who, they can't be competitive, especially about spirituality. They have to be rock solid with where they're at. They have to know that they are their own creator. And this was what was told me 2 years ago by Michelle Caron, an astrologer of outstanding skill. That, you know, those around me I can offer, you can offer, Kathy, but some people are going to stand down. They're not going to want to become involved, no matter how beautiful the love is or how karmic or deep the ties are. Because to be partnered, they have to be in ascension status. And that's a choice. And that's not a choice that anyone makes for another human being. Everyone has to make that for themselves. And I didn't want to believe that, and I didn't want to hear it. And I've been really kind of alternately angry about it and disbelieving. It's all about free will. Want to take a ride? No? Well, shit. So I've kind of been, I think, in the well shit portion of the programming for a while, because you know, it's been written about. There are a lot of people who just dropped out of my life completely. Many who will not visit my home. Many who will only see me under certain circumstances. They have to titrate. It's not so much about me. I'm a little bit hard to pin down. But I mean, if I'm grooving with somebody, I could see them every night of the week. I just can't get enough. And of course that comes and goes, I suppose. But not really. Not really. If I find if it's so uncommon for me to find a human being that I really enjoy being around, where it's actually soothing. I have not met many. Being around most humans is work. That's why I don't like to socialize a whole lot, because I'm working. That's why I like to go to parties where everyone is, they've abandoned their worries for the night. But still, I'm usually the old soul, sitting at the table, smoking, talking to somebody who's come up to me spontaneously, wanting to tell me about a past life dream that they're having recurrently, or I get in the weirdest conversations with people. And I like that. It's why I'm there. Sometimes it's only to meet one person or to say one thing. And then I'm done with the night. And sometimes it's to be in joy. It's to gift myself with a sound bath and with dancing and with joy. And be surrounded by people who are also joy monsters. I have a bunch of friends who are joy monsters. And the friends that I have around me now, do you think it's going to matter to them that I've come to the conclusion that I'm probably, like, if we're going to be looking at the scale from now on, from 55 forward, given transits and given life stories and on, that I'm going to be leaning toward being gay. And that's, that it just feels more comfortable. And I like it better. It certainly does not mean that I'm not attracted to men, because I am. I'm attracted to the male body, to the male member, to the male mind, to everything male. Not only sexually, but just, how could I not be? But it's what comes with. It's very different with my son and his friends. They're not cultured the way my peers were cultured. They don't believe the same dreams. They're not walking the same nightmares. They have their eyes open to some things that we didn't and still don't. And so when I talk about male-female, I mean, it's very, very, very individual. Aren't I living proof of that? So, sexual identity and spiritual identity, the reason I bring it up is that my understanding was that the Merkaba is positioned so that a woman will either be straight or gay, and a man will either be straight or gay. And they said to me, the teachers did, it's really very helpful for the vehicle to choose an orientation, because otherwise it involves having to switch constantly, and to be situational all the time, and it takes a toll. I mean, yeah, I can attest to that. I didn't want to limit myself, and I didn't feel that I had the right. It would just make my insides sweat to think, saying no to males. That's just dumb. Oh my God. I have met and been intimate with gods. And I would consider myself a fool if I had closed the door and sealed it with duct tape to say no to half of the population. Although I totally get that. And here's why. It has got nothing to do with they're bad people or whatever, because they're not. No. It has to do with spiritual identity. Like I said, I mean, I just knew since I was a kid that I was a dude. I'm a boy. Sure, I'm going to accept I'm going to accept the body. What else am I supposed to do? But I'm certainly going to be loose about it and open to, and there wasn't a lot of talk about any of this when I was a kid, so I was allowed to just have my own thoughts, and I certainly did, didn't I? So, for those listening who have 12 and 13-year-olds, and believe me, I remind myself of this, I was having these rich, lush, sensual and sexual thoughts at that age, making decisions about my identity both as a sexual being and as a spiritual being by then. So I think that, you know, what I've tried to do in my rearing of Sam, and, you know, time will tell whether I fucked up or not. I don't think I have. He says I haven't. Is, golly, you get to decide as you go. And there's no such thing as one size fits all. And who you are is who you are, and I'm going to honor that you might be having thoughts and downloads and awarenesses that are highly sexual and possibly quite dark. I don't know, but many people that age act out their thoughts and their imaginings. So when you're working with people or taking care of kids or having contact with kids who are 12 and 13, treating them as something other than dolts with sawdust in their noggins might be nice. But it requires copping to your own complexity and, you know, your own searching. And we want to project, I've got this shit handled. This is how it's going to be because this is the best way for you. Well, okay, but, yeah, they have their own thoughts. They're having their own thoughts. They're having their own reality right under your nose. And showing a little bit of respect toward them for having independence of thought and feeling and spirit goes a long way. You'd be surprised. Rather than trying to lord it over somebody and tell them how they're going to live. So, am I saying no to men? Oh, hell no. Am I saying no to kink? Oh, hell no. Am I saying no to polyamory? Nuh-uh. No. Am I saying no to women? No. In fact, what I've done is just switch it over. In the end, I'll tell you, it's sort of risky. But I was really, really, really clamped down there for a while sexually. I just was so wounded by everything that I had done. Because, you know, I have talked very openly about, it was the video of the day that all bets are off or something like that. Very openly about my sexuality, but I left off. Deep in the heights of sexuality with woman. What happened then? I hit, I don't know, 35, 36, around there, earlier. And I decided, you know, did you hear all of the reasons I didn't want to be part of the lesbian reality? It wasn't because I didn't like ladies. It's not because I don't want to sleep with them. It's not because I'm anything except not cool with how people treated me when I was out. Did you notice? Did you pick up on that? And I think it was in 7 or 8. I was driving around town. I don't know what was going on, but I remember thinking to myself, my God, I am really shut down sexually. And I was having those kind of thoughts. But I remember just spontaneous, it was a spontaneous thing because it shocked the shit out of me. I was driving and I'm hanging a right, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, I mean, the only thing I can see in my face is something that's, well, you know, a woman's yoni, I'll just say it. And it was this immediate physical response of desire and like that. And I felt so juiced up, and like I had a hit of reality, like I had a hit of what's true for me. I felt hope. I felt happy. I felt excited. I felt plugged in. And I didn't know what to do with it. I just let it be. I didn't pursue any. I like I've said, I didn't behave sexually, really, purposefully, for myself. Again, with anyone beside my ex-husband, until 2000 and was it 14? So that's a long time to keep the lid on something, to keep it cooking. And yeah, I got a Virgo ascendant. I don't want to do anything wrong. I'm a researcher. You think? But, too, I mean, and yeah, I've got a son who identifies as gay, and he's totally fine. He doesn't care. I asked him, would it be okay with you if I dated a transvestite, a dude transvestite who dug me? Is it okay with you if I date a woman? Is it okay with you if I date this guy here? And boy, he's weighed in loudly about some of it, but all of it's been positive, except for one. And I listen to my son. So, it takes me a while, Sam, but I listen. So at this point, there's a reason, I think, why and I know this to be true. There's a reason why I didn't pursue this as much as I could have, because I feel better thinking this way, feeling this. Why? Sure, it's got a little to do with just the societal nonsense, the labels, having to do everybody else's frickin' heavy lifting around their issues and their misunderstandings. Who needs it? But more. I remember coming out to my parents, and my mom said, "Yeah, well, kind of figured. But I think you're bi. I don't think you're gay. I think you're bi." Yeah, it's true. Well said, Mom. But she was sad. She was really sad. I think Dad was too. Because they saw that as, I can't have the happiness everyone else has. And that's tragedy, a travesty, and something that is they're responsible for, and a diminishment of their parenting skill or effectiveness, that I'm not going to have as happy a life as I could if I were different. Okay? So I still had oh, well, yeah, so what? Yeah, we always thought. Yeah. Isn't that nice? Oh, her name, oh, that's a lovely name. It's nice to meet you. Yes, of course we're going to buy your lunch. That kind of thing. It was very pleasant. It was very, very adult, and it was very early on in my life. But the sense that it wasn't legitimate. It wasn't legitimate. And I internalized that. You better believe it. It was within me long before I came out to my folks. I was involved in many relationships prior to letting my folks know. So, I want something legitimate. I want something that I don't have to explain. And I don't have to feel shitty about. But it's a passive-aggressive kind of shitty that no one's gonna admit to putting me down. But it's just the feeling, sort of like the Jimmy Carter feeling, 15-year-old high school girl feeling. Yep, like that. So maybe that's why at 55 I'm finally free. Because I have finally realized, well, thank you, Trump. Thank you, Trump supporters. Thank you, male consciousness, who has been brutal and abusive with power. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for all of the fucked up relationships I've had lately that have shown me so purely and so clearly the truth of it. This big group that has been telling me and you how to hold your sexuality, how to hold your spirituality, how to hold your comprehension and love and belief of your God They don't know what they're doing. Forgive them, Mother. They know not what they've done. Forgive them. That particular phrase has come back again and again the last week or so. But it's with the mother, not the father. And it's always with the understanding, now listen, girlie. Forgive them, Mother, for they know not what they're doing. They know not what they've done. What does that imply? What does that actually mean? Dear one, it means you don't have to do the forgiving. It means your heart doesn't have to break anymore. You notice it, you witness it, and you give it to your mother. Use your mother's eyes to look upon the people who would judge you. And act upon that judgment. So, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. I don't know, it's something about having Trump in the White House. It's like, we haven't lost our way. But there's more than one way of doing this. And the one that is sanctioned as America now is so far away from what I think is normal. And all this time, the monogamous, the married, the established, the corporatists, the fussy, the manipulative, the passive-aggressive. Forgive them, Mother. They don't know what they're doing. And I've taken all of it on. And I've tried to be okay with and I've believed that because they could see it in me, that it really was in me. Well, maybe it was a little bit. I mean, I'm physically here. I'm carbon-based. So the rumor goes. So sure, I might have a little bit of that in me, but hey, guess what? You're not my authority anymore. You're not in charge of my worth anymore. And you no longer get to set the definition of what's correct and good. Not only for me. Not only for me. So, I like it. Along with this has been an upsurge, just a phenomenal swell of appreciation for the work I've done. And I think that finally came to its fruition after having posted so clearly what I understood about what was going on both inside that little external Merkaba and on the outside, and then fully admitting. And I know it's a simple act. I know I've been saying this for years. I came here to ascend. Yeah, I'm into ascension. I know that. I guess to end, I'll remind you about the mountain. I've written about it. That waking up is like scaling a mountain. There, I had a very beautiful vision about that one time. But the idea is that, and there's some beautiful writing about the mountain, and about actually seeing myself as a mountain, and then witnessing these pockets, these caves, and standing inside a crystal cave that's part of a mountain and looking out and realizing it's all me. And on this mountain, I from the beginning lamented, I wish that there's some sort of grid or chart that could tell you where you're at consciousness-wise, because it gets a little confusing. It's all the same words, and they mean completely different things depending on where you're at vibrationally. Well, what I was trying to language is that there've got to be tracers for consciousness. Stances. There have to be tracers for DNA activation, for where you're at. You act different, think different, behave different, expect different, speak differently, expect different, depending on where you're at. At the bottom of the mountain, there's some things that you couldn't even imagine considering. And at the top of the mountain, you go, oh yeah, well, isn't that funny? This all seemed impossible a little while ago. Huh. So, sexual identity and spiritual identity. So, yeah, I guess this is coming out weekend. It's like, again, the only person I've really come out to is myself. That's so funny. And that's what I love about all of this, about awakening or ascension or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. When you finally get there, when you finally crack that goddamn koan that's been bugging you for years, literally for years, an insertive thought that makes no sense, that you know you have to figure out, but you don't know how. And that comes to pass, and you see all the tumblers line up, and in a flash, not understanding makes as much sense as this utter and complete understanding you now hold. You just got to get used to it. And I guess that's what I'm so excited about. It's been a process the last few videos, but I've been watching. I hear the voice. I hear the mastery. I hear the confidence. I can feel it. And it's not defensive. It's really not about proving that somebody else has got it messed up and they're not behaving quite right. It's not about that. It's not about pointing out misbehavior. It's about working with it while not tolerating it and educating it and loving it while it disappears in front of my eyes. That's what it's about. So that's why I'm not worried about the dark. I'm not worried about any of this anymore. Yeah, it's a bunch of toddlers. And I really like that. It's true. It's watching the government that is being put into place, which is fascist. Donald Trump's proposed government is a fascist one. He is a fascist. Well, okay. He's not the enemy, and neither are his supporters. And neither is the consciousness that makes it possible. Know why? There aren't any enemies. It's not about good and bad. about the functioning of the DNA. People who function better don't behave that way. They don't think that way. They could, but it's funny. That kind of behavior is really uncomfortable. And it leads to really bad things. You get sensitive enough and you start behaving that way, you even begin to think about, I mean, it's not that way for you when you're rocking out of it, you play with it and you test it and you behave bad. Sometimes more than once. And you keep getting smacked down. And you realize, oh, this isn't allowed behavior anymore. Somehow my spirit or my God or myself, my energy isn't allowing me to behave this way anymore. Because every time I do, I get smacked hard. And I know it's because of this. Some people don't have that. Some people can't even tell what another person's emitting when they're talking to them. They are cut off. They are isolated. And people who are isolated and cut off are scared. They're in the dark. They're separated. So yeah, it's about connecting. Part of that is about getting right with your sexuality and accepting oneself. So, mission accomplished, baby. There are people in my life who I love intensely and unspeakably and against all odds. There are people who I will feel that way about in future who I have not met yet. I refuse. I refuse. To not allow the male to approach me and love me as I love him. But there must be an elevated mind, a clarity of heart, a depth of intelligence, and a beauty of soul that I recognize. This is true for women as well. But I admit from this day forward that I am sexually open to women in a way I am not sexually open to all men. And I am absolutely and utterly relieved to be in a place where I can admit that to myself. By doing so, I think that it simply formalizes the changes I've been through energetically, which are not only sexual, obviously. So, yeah, I'm a big old channeler, you bet. I listen to this stuff and it's like, I have to think what my sister said the first time she talked to me about this pursuit of mine. That's not you, Kathy. That can't possibly be you. You'd have to go through so many schools and you'd have to, it's just not possible. It was like such a relief to hear her say that. I said, yeah, I know. I know. Isn't it weird? So, 49. What an odd day. And it was perfectly fine. People who are upset or freaked out or weirded out or grossed out by this, oh, that's fine. That's fine. Or, you know, you want to limit it or whatever you want to call it, degrade it, because it's mixing the two things you shouldn't mix. Well, that's unenlightened. That's unenlightened. Remember me saying, to end? One of the very first things I said in the spin is all in all a spin. I encountered the spin of my Merkaba. It's the closest thing I know to God. Spin. For me, I know that God is spin. It's the closest thing I know. And the only thing on this earth that comes close is an orgasm. And that is a pale imitation or echo. Echo, not imitation, because it's legitimate. It's an echo of the voice of God. An echo. So, is sexuality a big deal? Yeah, I think so. It's the way that we hook up. It's one of the ways we hook up. And simple acknowledgement of its existence and its importance can be enough to hook it up. And possibly shake the fear of exploring a bit. Ooh, exploration. Sexual exploration. Sign me up. That's all I have. It's enough. I'm willing to give this to you because I know that there are people on this earth who question, look at me. I'm intelligent. I'm emotionally intelligent. And I didn't understand some of this. Doesn't that tell you that maybe speaking about it in its resolution might help and touch even just one other person? You're not alone. You're not a perv. You haven't done anything wrong. It doesn't matter who you desire, what you desire, why you desire it. Doesn't matter. It is sainted business. Because you are an emanation of Creator, this body, and the fun zones. They're deliberately placed. Let's not forget, the clitoris is the only organ in either male or female whose only function is pleasure. So, yeah, yammer on about how sex is only to be used for procreation. Oh my God. Yeah, go ahead and finish up with that lecture, and then maybe we can have a discussion, a two-way discussion, and we can discuss the importance of looking at the biology and honoring what's glittering there, asking you to understand. Sex is good. An orgasm is a way home. Being right with how you express as a being involves not only alignment with one's sexuality, but with one's spirituality. And to deny one is to deny the other. Talk about a sassy girl. I'm very proud of this. I'm proud of my work. I'm just like, I'm walking around feeling like Rocky. So, thank you. Thank you for helping me.